Are you ready to prepare 1099s for your 1099 contractors, or are you ready to give a list to your accountant or CPA so they can do that for you? Well, in this lesson, I'm going to show you how QuickBooks can make easy work of that. It's just a few setup items that you need to address so QuickBooks can do most of the work for you. The first thing you're going to need to tell QuickBooks is which vendors are eligible for a 1099. So you can see I have the vendor list on the screen. I'm going to select Hamlin Metal because I know they're one of the vendors for this company that should get a 1099. I can go to Edit. I'm going to choose Tax Settings, and I'm going to make sure this box is marked with a check mark and I have their tax ID number in this field. In order to get their tax ID number, I would have had to have them fill out a W-9 form that I do need to keep on file. If you scan that and save it to your computer, you can attach it here by clicking this button. But we're not going to go into great detail about that. I just want to say, for all of the vendors you're going to give a 1099 to at the end of the year, you should have a W-9 on file for them. You can get W-9 forms by going to irs.gov, and there's a link on the home page to get a W-9 form. So once we have identified in this list all of our vendors who are eligible for 1099s and have went to Edit, Tax Settings, checkmarked vendor eligible for 1099, and have put their tax ID numbers in there, then we're ready for the next step. The next step is to go to the Vendors drop-down menu, choose Print or E-File 1099s, and choose 1099 Wizard. QuickBooks does a great job of walking you through. You would get this screen. I had already been here, so I got a previous screen. But QuickBooks does a really good job in this wizard of walking you through how to do this. So let's say Get Started. In this screen, it gives us a list of all of the vendors that we have marked in that previous vendors edit that are eligible for a 1099. Not everyone gets a 1099 form. You don't have to send 1099 forms to companies that are incorporated. In other words, have comma Inc. in their name. And some of these for this company may, or you may not need to send them to companies that you get services from, like utilities. So we'll continue, and we get to this screen. Now here it's giving us a list of all of the information for each vendor that we have set up. So here we've told QuickBooks that Holly Heating and Electrical should get a 1099, but QuickBooks is alerting us to the fact that we don't have a tax ID number in QuickBooks for them. So we would want to address that. Once we got that tax ID number, we can go back to our vendor center, click on that particular vendor, choose Edit, Tax Settings. We see that we have them marked here but do not have a number. So once we get the number, we can put it in here and continue. Now, obviously, I just made that number up. Let's go back to our wizard and continue. Now their number is in there. Let's say continue. The next really important part is mapping the payments, the accounts that you use when you pay those vendors that are eligible for 1099 forms. Common accounts would be cost of goods sold accounts, job materials, subcontractors expense, any accounts that you use that person or business would consider as income. Now let's say this. Let's say that you use subcontractors and you want to report subcontractors expense as an account that they should get 1099 on, but if you reimburse them for buying job materials, that's really not income to them. It's a job materials expense to you. So you wouldn't want them to get 1099 for that reimbursed part because that wasn't really income to them. It was just a reimbursement. So in this section is where we say these are the accounts used for 1099s. So you can see they're saying omit job materials. Don't track that if I pay somebody for job materials. But if I pay someone for subcontractors, do include that in box 7 of the 1099 form. And they're also saying don't include freight and delivery or building repairs or gas and electric. So the only one this company is reporting under is subcontractor expense. This is different for every business. And this is the part that's probably a little confusing and you may need additional help on if you don't completely understand this. So I'm going to say put all of this in box 7 on that form and continue. Now we can view included payments and we can see how much each one of the vendors that we've chosen to get 1099s have chosen to print 1099s for, how much each one has received through the year. So you can just scroll through this report. After you've done that, you can view the excluded, if there were any exclusions, which in this one there was not. By the way, I'm using a sample company file, and the dates in the sample company file are 2018. Yours would be for 2014, or the tax year you're working on. Once we continue, it brings us to this screen, and it's going to basically let us know how many 1099 forms this company is going to generate. Now, only vendors who have been paid $600 or more in a calendar year in the categories that you had mapped to track for 1099s will get a 1099. So in this case, CU Electric will not because they have 0. Larson Flooring will not because they have 0. Middlefield Drywall will, and so will VU Contracting. So we'll continue, and here you have the option to print the 1099s or use Intuit's e-file services. So if I say print the 1099s, it's going to say for last calendar year, keeping in mind this is a sample company using 2018, and say OK. And here it's going to show me who all is getting a 1099. As I said before, only 2 of them. I would choose print 1099s. I would make sure that I had the 1099 forms that I've bought online or through the office supply store. You have to buy the pre-printed forms. It's special ink, it's special paper. That's what the IRS will only use. You can't just print one offline and make photocopies of it. You have to have the actual real form. I would have that loaded in my printer. I'd have the printer selected. I would choose print, and those forms would print out. Now, here's a little more about that. There's the form that you keep, there's the form that they get, there's the form they get if you have state income tax. So you may have to load the printer and do this step several times to get all of the copies that you need to print for the 1099s. Once you've completed that, I'm going to just say cancel and pretend like we have completed printing our 1099s. Mail those out. Those have to be mailed by January 31st. Now you're going to have a report due to the government in February, but the government makes that report due a little later, so you have the opportunity to send these 1099 forms out to your vendors because they may not agree with your numbers. You may have included something you shouldn't or not have included something. There may be some reason that they disagree with the amount that's on their 1099. In which case you're going to need to revise that in your QuickBooks and reprint it. But once you have, all of your vendors have confirmed, or rather not called you and said anything about their 1099s, when your 1096 form is due, you're going to come back in here to print 1099s and say OK, and this time you're going to say print 1096. That's the form that's due to the government by the end of February. So again, when you buy that form package at your office supply store, it will come with a 1099 or 1096 form rather in it. So that's the one you're going to load in the printer and say print 1096. Choose the right printer, load the form in correctly, print it, and then on the form it's going to tell you where you need to mail that to the government. So basically that's it. is a very simple process that you can complete on your own, or you can generate that, send your accountant or CPA your QuickBooks file, and they can print your 1099 forms for you. Some accountants also like to get a copy of the W-9 forms for each vendor that you're going to send a 1099 to. If this seems a little over your head or you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I can work with you by phone. I can work you through remote access, or if you're in the Central Florida area within 35 miles of zip code 32763, I can come to you and work with you directly and help you get through this 1099 filing. Be sure to start on this early. Don't wait until the last week of January, because you get overwhelmed and stressed and miss the deadline. These do have to be mailed by January 31st. I'm Rhonda Smith, your QuickBooks coach. You can find me at yourquickbookscoach.com, Rhonda at yourquickbookscoach.com, or 386-785-4444. Thank you for joining me.